Hi guys, I'm Katie. So I'm guessing if you're seeing this, you're considering getting the Neuropace, and I think it's honestly the best decision I ever made. So keep watching. I'm gonna answer some general questions, some questions I found in my notes that I asked my doctors, and then just some personal experiences I've had since I got the Neuropace. So just some background of the kind of seizures I have. I have simple partial seizures, so it's just my left arm, and it's in the morning between like 1 a.m. and 12 p.m. It's usually what wakes me up in the morning, but ever since getting the Neuropace, I've had a huge change in seizure pattern. I barely have any anymore, and I'm just going to talk about it throughout this video, and I hope it helps anyone who has questions. And if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the comments, or I'm going to leave a couple ways that you can reach me. Do you feel anything when it stimulates? So no, I don't feel anything when the Neuropace stimulates, because the goal of Neuropace is to help your seizures without affecting your day-to-day life. So the only time I've ever felt anything stimulate was one time when I was at the doctor's and we were tweaking like how the system works, and they only ever change anything about the Neuropace while you're in the office. So one time I just felt the tiniest little tingle, and I was like, it can't be on this setting because I feel it. So the doctors won't put anything on a setting where you can feel it and you don't like it. Can you still go swimming? So yes, after your doctor and your surgeon give you the okay, you can still go swimming. They just have to make sure your incision is all good, all healed up, and then you're ready to go. So I did my procedure in November, but if it were in the summer, I still, after a bit, have been able to swim. So what about showering? So I don't think I showered for a couple days, which sounds gross, but like, hello, brain surgery. So my mom, when I got home, she washed my hair for me, and it actually helped a lot with the itching, because what a lot of people don't tell you is that when you have an incision, it gets really itchy when it heals, just like a scab. So mine was really itchy, and the warm water and the shampoo, it really helped with that. And it only lasted a couple days. It wasn't really something that would have influenced my decision, but if you're someone who's thinking about the Neuropace, just like a heads up, if you do it, it's really itchy for a couple days, but completely worth it. How much does it hurt? So post-surgery, sometimes it's really hard to like remember all the details because you're super fuzzy from medication and everything you've just been through, but I don't remember it being super painful. I remember having a pretty constant headache, but the pain medication really helped with that. And since I was drowsy from the pain medication, I slept through a lot of it. So it is a little painful afterwards. Like, you'll have headaches. When I went home, they tell you to wait 2 or 3 weeks before returning to any work or school, and I thought I was fine to return after 2 weeks. So I did. Then I realized that I should have waited 3 weeks. I went to school for half days, so some days I only went for the 3 blocks in the morning. The next day I went for only 3 blocks in the afternoon. And if you're like a student, really just explain this to your teachers or your professors, because they'll understand. Like, you do not want to push yourself. I pushed myself way too much in my opinion, and it did cause me headaches. So if you just take care of yourself and take care of your health, it will not be as painful as a process as it could be. Like, it is brain surgery, so there's gonna be some headaches, a little bit of pain, but it was so worth it. And if you just take care of yourself, it will not be that bad. So one other thing about pain is that my biggest pain trigger was stress and physical exertion. So just relax while you're recovering, and when you think you're fine, relax even more because you don't want to push yourself. You want to make the recovery process as smooth and easy as possible. So what is recovery like? Recovery, they told me, was 3 to 5 weeks, and I'm pretty sure I was like basically 100% after 4 weeks because I was back in school. I was back to seeing my friends. But like I said already, you just want to wait and you want to rest and you don't want to push yourself. It's just not worth it. So recovery was really fast. I was in the hospital for 3 nights and they told me it's usually 2 to 3 nights. Um, it was really fast. I was really happy about it. I didn't expect it to be so quick. So if you're someone who's a really busy person and you think this is going to be like a long recovery, it's really not that long. How quickly can the Neuropace take full effect? So I asked multiple doctors and surgeons this because I really wanted a straight answer of how quickly it would be. And no matter how much you want that answer, they just can't give it to you. So they told me anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. And even though it took me about like a year to hit a sweet spot, as they call it, like where my seizures were very under control, um, every time I went to the doctor and we changed something, it got better. And even though it's not going to take full effect right away, I very soon after the procedure saw an improvement in my seizures. So thinking about full effect isn't going to help you. You should think about 1 month and the next month and the next month. It's going to improve each time. So it made a big difference in my day-to-day life. Every time I went to the doctor's office and they tweaked the settings. So a question I had was, how big of a scar will it be? Because I was like a girl in high school and I cared about my hair a lot. So when I was 12, I actually had 5 craniotomies for my epilepsy. I had a resection that helped for a while, and that left a decent scar that's healed over a lot. Like my hair grew out, but for Neuropace, they went through that same line, but the scar, like the incision was so much smaller, and I don't think they shaved any of my hair. Everything was like, I looked exactly the same. So if a scar or your hair is something you're concerned about, it's really nothing. Like I didn't even notice a difference at all. I don't think they cut any. So now these are the questions that I asked my doctors and my surgeons when I first got the procedure. Does this mean I can stay up late in the future? So when I was a senior, I knew I was going into a nursing school, and if you don't know, nursing is a very stressful, time-consuming, difficult major. So I knew I would have a lot of late nights studying, and it was really important for me to be a nurse. So I was asking them if this meant I could stay up late because stress and sleep deprivation are my 2 biggest triggers for my seizures. And this has actually helped me stay up late studying because I can stay up hours past what I used to. I used to go to bed around 10, and I'm not encouraging anyone to stay up late, but I have been up till like 2 a.m. studying for an exam. And even like no matter how stressed I get, I don't have seizures in the morning because of it. So the Neuropace definitely has helped me that way. I can stay up later when I have the opportunity not to. I choose not to because it's healthy for you. But it has helped me stay up later and I get done what I have to get done. So sports was a big concern for me because I got my procedure November of my senior year in high school, and I was on the school varsity volleyball team as a senior. So it was my last season, and they told me that I wouldn't be able to have physical activity for 2.5 months after the procedure. Keeping in mind, my procedure was November 4th, and usually the season ends early to mid-November. So I thought I was gonna miss like states and county games and stuff. So I remember being in the doctor's office listening to 2.5 months out of volleyball, and I was just bawling. And so this is something that I thought about as a factor, but I knew that having the surgery was bigger than this. So as big as it seemed at the time, being in those games was not as big as going to college, becoming a nursing student, like handling all the things Neuropace has done for me. So I'm actually on the school club volleyball team in college now. So even though being on the varsity high school team seemed like such a big deal in the moment, I thought the world was ending, when they said that. The world is not over if you're in a similar situation. Like, it is not everything. It's not, like, you know what I mean? Like, sports isn't everything. Fear of missing out. So, when I was 12 in middle school, I had those 5 craniotomies, and it was a really sad situation because my recovery was a lot longer. And after that, my friend group that I had in middle school didn't talk to me anymore. So I had been out of school and out of summer activities for so long that it was kind of like they forgot about me almost. And when I was a senior getting the Neuropace surgery, I was so scared that was going to happen again. And I promise you, like, if you have good friends, if they're your support system, if you're worried about missing out on activities, they're gonna make you feel included and they're gonna be there for you for support. Like, after when I was recovering from my Neuropace surgery, my friends would come over after school and they would watch as many hours as they could, um, Netflix and movies, and we would just sit on the couch and eat. I was so scared I was gonna miss out on activities, but I didn't. I always felt included, and they came and saw me every day just because, like, they love me so much. So if missing out is something you're afraid of, it shouldn't be. They're going to be there for you, like, they're your support system. So some mini achievements I got after the Neuropace. um, I got into my nursing school, so I'm a nursing student now and I'm doing really well, all because of Neuropace. And this previous summer, I also went a full 3 months without one seizure, and that's the longest I've ever gone without a seizure, so that was a big win for me. So before Neuropace, I took medicine in the morning and at night, and now I only take medicine at night because the Neuropace made such a difference that I was able to get off that morning medicine, and that made going to school a lot easier and just like waking up in general, because morning medicine would make me think slower, it would make me more tired, and that made learning a lot harder for me. And that's something my teachers didn't always understand. I was also never a book smart person. Learning has always been a long process for me. So, if you're in that same boat, if you take morning medicine and you're thinking about getting a Neuropace, that was one of my reasons for getting it. So, a little story time about being in college. Entering a new environment was really scary at first, and I didn't have any friends. I was hoping to be friends with my roommate. And it's really common for roommates to be besties, but it's also really common for them not to be best friends. And my roommate, we didn't like dislike each other, but she didn't really want to be besties, and that made it a little scarier to have seizures in front of her. And she was also a nursing student, so at the beginning of the year I kind of explained to her, like, look, I have seizures, like, you might see one happen, I don't know. And one day, about halfway through the semester, yeah, she actually saw one for the first time. I was surprised it lasted that long. And I would always be so scared in the morning whenever I would have a seizure because I thought she was seeing it. And my bed like faced the wall because I only have them on the left side of my body. So I couldn't see her while it was happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, is she seeing this? Is she judging me? Does she think I'm weird? I always had this fear of having seizures in front of people. And the one day that she did see it, after it happened, she asked me, are you okay? And I was very surprised because I didn't expect that reaction. And the rest of the year, her being so nice to me about it made me a lot less worried to have a seizure in front of her. And it just made it like easier to know that, oh, I'm going to bed late and it's not ideal, but I might have a seizure, and I knew that she wasn't gonna judge me, like even though we weren't best friends, she understood. I used to think that people would never understand, they'd like think I was weird, but people just are actually looking out for you in college. Like, she asked me if I was okay, and we were not friends at all. Like, she checked up on me, so that meant a lot to me. I also had this fear entering college that I wouldn't be able to make friends because I couldn't stay out too late still, and I always thought that like if I told people I had epilepsy, they would judge me and not want to be friends because it was like weird. And I eventually realized that that fear was just so irrational, like not true. People, if anything, thought that it was like kind of interesting to know someone with epilepsy, and they always had my back. Like, they weren't judging me. I made friends really fast, and you never have to explain your seizures and epilepsy to anyone, but I typically like to tell my friends about it just because if something ever happened to me, like they would know. But you don't have to explain yourself, or if you do want to tell them about it, like, and you don't know how to go about it, you can just be like, yo, I can't stay out this long because I have seizures. My friends are always looking out for me, and like that really makes me happy, and like that really shocked me when I got to college because I didn't expect people to be so nice and considerate right off the bat. If you do have that fear and you're entering college, try your hardest to like let it go and not think about it when talking to someone. Don't think like, oh, if I tell them, it might scare them off. Think like, oh, if I tell them, it might make them think I'm interesting, or it might make them think I'm like a brave person kind of thing. Don't let it be that fear that holds you back from succeeding. So now I'm gonna go back to explaining how the Neuropace works and what I do daily to keep up with my routine. So before COVID, every month I had an appointment in New York City with my Neuropace team and my doctor, and we would tweak a setting on the Neuropace, and it would usually be like the strength of the stimulation. It would be which leads are most effective, because I have 4 leads from my Neuropace, and it was like which ones are most effective. Okay, like we could turn this one off and see if these 3 work better, because only 4 are active at a time. And so there were always different settings that we would try, and they only try different settings when you're in the office, because one time, like, I didn't notice, but I had a little twitch, and one of the doctors noticed that when they would stimulate it, and we would stimulate it and we would test the stimulation to make sure I didn't have any side effects, he noticed it. So they're really good about like making sure you're comfortable, making sure that you're ready to try a new setting, and they're really good at explaining what they're doing, what's going on, what to expect, and it's so scientific, but they have these analogies that they use to help you understand it. So last but not least, this is my nightly routine. Neuropace gives you a Dell laptop, and basically you plug in your wand. It's called a wand. You plug it into the side of the laptop, and all your data from your Neuropace, it takes about like 30 seconds. You hold this up to it at night, and it takes all the data from your Neuropace, puts it on the laptop, and after a week, you send everything on the laptop to the doctors, and they can look at all the data that the Neuropace collects. So say you have a seizure one day, you take this little magnet that I keep by my bedside, it says Neuropace, you swipe it across your Neuropace. I'm not gonna do it, obviously, but you swipe it across just like a couple seconds, and it makes a little mark in the data saying, like, here, she swiped it, she had a seizure, and they can compare those brain waves during the seizure to other ones. Then the Neuropace learns how to recognize seizures even better. So that's my nightly routine. Literally takes less than a minute. Those are all the questions I could think of, but I really hope that helps some of you guys. If you have any questions and like just from someone who has personal experience with it, please reach out if you have any other questions, and I hope it was helpful. Bye!